Hello. Today I was going to discuss why I no longer believe your struggles mean that you are manifesting wrong. My name is Allison Batty Caps of Blossoming Heart Wellness. I'm a licensed mental health therapist, yoga therapist, Reiki master, and channeler. So, have you ever had a moment where you thought, I've done so much healing? Why is my life still so hard? Well, that's the question I want to explore today. Not from a place of cynicism, not from a place of attacking spirituality, but from a place of honesty. Because for many years, I deeply believed that if I healed enough internally, my external life would eventually become peaceful. That is what I was being told by my providers, by spiritual teachers, and that was what I was seeing on social media. And while I absolutely believe healing matters, my own life has challenged some of the ways these teachings are often presented. And I want to share that journey with you. When I was younger, I experienced childhood sexual abuse. I experienced emotional abuse, physical abuse, domestic violence. My parents divorced. There were periods of poverty and homelessness. Later in life, I navigated serious mental health challenges, including schizophrenia. My first husband had multiple affairs. There have been health struggles, financial struggles, immigration struggles, relationship struggles, and more recently, licensing issues for my career connected to an event that happened decades ago. I'm not sharing this to compare suffering. I'm sharing it because context matters. In 2008, I became consciously aware of my trauma and my trauma patterns, and I began doing the work: therapy, self reflection, spiritual practice, neuroscience, psychology, trauma healing, parts work, nervous system regulation. For nearly 2 decades, I have devoted myself to understanding healing and to healing myself. And here's what I expected. I thought that as my inner world became healthier, my outer world would become easier. Not perfect, just easier, more stable, more peaceful, more supportive. But something surprising happened. My inner world changed dramatically. I found inner peace and integration and a resilience that helped me recognize all of the adaptations that I had had up until that point in 2008. And I actively worked to shift those patterns that were unhelpful. Yet, life kept being life. Challenges continued. Unexpected obstacles continued. Losses continued. Uncertainty continued. Crises continued. And I found myself asking a question that I think many people are afraid to ask. What if healing does not guarantee ease? And this is where I began struggling with some versions of spiritual teachings, especially these teachings that suggest that our external circumstances are primarily a reflection of our internal state. Because if that's true, what does it say about someone who has spent years healing and still experiences hardship? What does it say about trauma survivors who never asked to experience their trauma? What does it say about people living with chronic illnesses? What does it say about people experiencing poverty, discrimination, violence, and systemic barriers? The danger is that these teachings can unintentionally become, if your life is still difficult, you must be doing something wrong. And for someone carrying trauma or experiencing systemic issues, that message can feel devastating. I certainly have experienced that for myself because many trauma survivors already blame themselves. Many trauma survivors already believe it must be me. I must be the problem. If I just healed enough, maybe this wouldn't be happening. And as a therapist, I see something very different. And neuroscience supports this. Our brains and our nervous systems are shaped by experience. Healing changes us, but healing does not remove us from external reality. A regulated nervous system does not prevent natural disasters. A secure attachment style does not prevent other people from making harmful choices. A healthy mindset does not prevent bureaucratic delays, economic shifts, illness, or loss. What healing often changes is not whether hardship occurs, it changes how we meet hardship. It changes how quickly we recover. It changes whether we repeat destructive patterns. It changes whether we abandon ourselves. And that is profound, but it is not the same thing as immunity from suffering. And it still means that we can feel exhausted by external life circumstances. Spiritually, I've come to believe something more nuanced. I do believe that consciousness matters. I do believe that intention matters. I do believe that our internal world influences how we perceive the world and how we experience it and how we then engage in it. But I no longer believe that every difficulty is evidence of a hidden belief, a low vibration, or a manifestation failure. Sometimes difficult things happen because we are human beings living in a complex world. Sometimes other people make choices. Sometimes systems fail. Sometimes tragedy happens. Sometimes life is simply life. And acknowledging that is not pessimistic, it's compassionate. One of the most healing shifts for me was realizing that I didn't do all of this work just to become better at suffering. I did this work because I wanted to live. I wanted connection, joy, meaning, creativity, peace. And I think many people quietly carry the same longing, not to be perfect, not to transcend humanity, but to thrive. So, if you've been doing the work and life still feels hard, I want to offer you this. Your struggles are not proof that you've failed spirituality. Your challenges are not evidence that you are broken. And your pain is not automatically a sign that you have manifested wrong. Healing is not about becoming powerful enough to control life. Healing is about learning how to stay connected to yourself, even when life remains uncertain. And while that may not be the promise many spiritual teachings and psychological perspectives and self-help people are offering, I believe it is a much more compassionate and human one. Thank you for being here. And if this resonated with you, I would love to hear your experience of life, healing, and suffering in the comments. And if you want to go deeper, I invite you to read my book, The Divine Within, Healing Ourselves to Heal the World, or visit my website, blossomingheartwellness.com, to learn more about my online courses and how to work with me. I'm sending you deep love as you navigate the challenges of being human.